to Impressions Magazine's Ask the Experts podcast and video series, where we talk to veteran professionals from across the decorated apparel industry about the technologies and techniques they've used to help make their own business a success. In this episode, we'll be speaking with Charlie Taublieb, a veteran screen printer who was very much present at the creation, so to speak, in terms of modern screen printing. Today, in addition to being a popular Impressions Expo presenter, Charlie serves as principal of Taublieb Consulting and is the author of the recently published Screen Printer's Handbook and Survival Guide, which is available in both a print version and online. In our conversation, Charlie and I will be discussing what to look for when shopping for a new screen printing press, whether you're just starting out as a professional decorator or looking to expand an existing business. And with that, let's go and check in with Charlie. So Charlie, it is great to have you with us and welcome to Ask the Experts.
Adam, thanks so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll tell you what, why don't we just, we're just going to kind of jump into it here. So, obviously there are really kind of a vast number of screen printing presses on the market these days, including everything from, say, a 4-color single station unit to, a big auto with all the bells and whistles, servo, pneumatic. But I wonder, especially for people who are new to decorating or looking maybe to get into the field, are there any kind of constants, any universal features that you look for in any press? That kind of, you just glance at it and think, oh yeah, this is a press that's worth the money, or I might want to stay away from this one.
There are, and I think part of it comes down to what you plan on doing in terms of what type of work. If you're going to do this as a hobby, you can get away with quite a bit without going crazy financially. If you're planning on doing it as a real business, that's a whole different ballgame. And so what I look for when I put a shop together, I put in a 6-color rotary, whether it's a 3 or 4 station or even a 6, which I'm not a fan of. I find that to be a bit overkill. The reason for a 6, the general jobs in this industry are 1, 2, and 3 color work. And by having a 6-color press, you have room to have 2 different jobs on at the same time in case you needed to add a shirt or something got screwed up and you needed to do that. That's the downside of the 4-color press. Although we do a lot of 3-color work, you're stuck, and to break down a job and reset it up is just a money-losing proposition. As far as features, I certainly want the most micros that are available, meaning front to back, left to right, up and down, and pitch angle. And that allows me to do t-shirts, sweatshirts, etc., without having to lose registration. The costlier presses definitely do go in that direction. The lesser expensive ones do not. And so they'll have front and back, left and right, but they won't have the other up and down and pitch angle. And do I think that's important? I really do. I push my squeegee. And so by having the front a little higher than the back, as I'm pushing, it's peeling, which is also why I'm a big believer in pushing, but that's another topic. As far as anything else, I'm a fan of new machines. That doesn't mean that I'm against a used piece of equipment, but if you're going to get a used piece of equipment, you really want to put a screen on, print with it, swing it in one direction, print again, swing it in the other direction, maybe do it 4 or 5 times, and everything has to line up absolutely dead perfect. And if it's off by just a fraction, then it's a piece of junk. Right. And whatever they're asking, it's too much money.
If I could jump in real quick, I know years ago I used to do a lot of bicycle riding, and I remember one of the things is you buy the components, the derailleurs and the brakes and things like that on a bicycle. They all worked really well straight out of the box, but the reason you paid more for, say, a top end brake set or crank or something was after you put in the miles. That's when you're going to notice the difference. Is that kind of like both with presses new and the problem with a used press, right? You
Absolutely.
Already those miles.
I've worked with obviously quite a lot of presses and a range in terms of price points. The better machines, the one that I use at the workshop, has a 25-year warranty on it.
Really? Okay.
And so, and as it turned out, that was the very first press I ever bought. Of course, I didn't get to use it much because I went to an automatic almost immediately. But the better machines definitely have strong warranties, which I think is a very good thing. And they have people behind them that will work with you. Where buying on online and Amazon or whatever, which you can, eBay. You really don't know what you're getting until it shows up. And at that point, you're kind of in a quandary. It may be okay initially, but 6 months down the road, it's falling apart on you. And if this is what you're going to do for a living, I have my own attitude about this. I think you buy the best thing on the market, or you buy the cheapest thing that you can get away with until you have enough money to buy the best and you scrap the cheapest thing. The worst thing to be is in the middle, where you've invested too much to dump it and you're not getting the features that you really need.
Interesting. And speaking of wear and tear on presses, I suppose, especially with manuals, where are kind of the pain points? Where does a press start to break down, or even just become a little, I guess, jiggly, right? Just you lose that precision.
Sure. Well, the first point is where the heads lock into the machine itself, into the arms. And so different manufacturers have different situations. Some of them use plastic high-flex screws, which are meant to wear out, which is great. Others use wheels, which are supposed to turn, metal wheels. The problem with the metal wheels, because a lot of people are still using spray adhesive, it locks up on them. And if you have metal to metal rubbing, you're going to lose registration. And once you do, that press is toast. And so to me, taking a very close look at the locking mechanism and whether or not it's meant to wear down is part of it. And I have no problem spending a couple of bucks to put in new pins once they wear down, knowing that the plastic is much softer than the metal, and so my metal will hold up.
So I guess that's part of it too. Part of it, well, or maybe it's not. When you buy a new press, are there presses that you can work on, like a higher quality press, one that comes with a warranty, one that comes with customer support? Is that the kind of press you can change out components, or even you're going to need to change out components to work?
Almost any of the top manufacturers do have the ability to change out components for you. I mean, one of the presses that was on the market is still probably around, use roller skate wheels. And I said, really, roller skate wheels? It's like, yeah, they turn, they don't wear, and they do wear out, which is fine. And so you're not going to hurt your press. They wear down enough, you throw them away, you put on a new set of roller skate wheels. You can put in some pretty cool colors, I guess. Not that matters, but
it's fun.
You certainly want something that is not so welded in place that you can't change a component.
One of the things, I guess, a couple of things that jump out when you first see a machine are just kind of like the stock, the metal stock that's used to build a framework, or
right,
or I suppose the platinums as well. Is there something to look for there as well?
As far as the platinums go, I mean, there are those that are using solid aluminum. There are those that have a neoprene. So in any event, yes, you can burn up some of the pallets, even the neoprene ones. They do offer replacement neoprene. You're not going to burn up an aluminum one, but at the same time, they get very hot. And if you're pushing by hand, that could definitely be a factor to you. I don't think enough people pay attention to how hot those can really get.
Interesting. So it sounds like, on the one hand, in terms of features for registration and things like that, a big part of what you're talking about is the speed, the efficiency of getting the system in registration. And then after that, the other really critical factor is that once you have the press in registration for a job, or multiple jobs, if you have them on the press, it stays in registration. That's really where the rubber meets the pavement in terms of press performance, especially we're talking manual here, right?
Correct. And there are two situations in manuals. You have a back clamping system, you have a side clamping system. So with presses that use bigger screens, if you're going to use your press to do screens for an automatic and then move into the automatic, or vice versa, those are generally going to be side clamp, because there's a little more stability there and there's bigger weight. The faster of the machines, I think, are still the back clamping, because you only have 2 dials to deal with instead of 4, and a little bit easier, a little faster on setup. That being said, a well-built press will hold registration regardless of which system you're using.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, you touched on this a little bit, but I guess I just want to get back to it again, just real quick. For those who are looking to start out, and I feel you have this conversation with a lot of people as part of your, your consulting work. But again, what are your thoughts in terms of the number of stations and colors that somebody who's maybe taking this from a side hustle, or wants to really jump into it? What are your thoughts again in terms of that kind of factor?
Well, so we'll deal with the non-hobbyists for a moment, because the hobbyists can really get away with
Yeah,
anything. They're
yeah,
looking at doing 1-2 color work, and that's fine.
sure.
For someone who's serious, I find it, even with athletic stores, I find it ridiculous to buy a 4-color press, just because you just don't get the flexibility. That being said, it's rare for me to recommend a press that's beyond 6 unless you have a very specific reason for it. So if you were going to put out your own line of shirts and you wanted a lot of colors, I would probably go to an 8-color press.
Okay.
They do make them up to 14 colors. Those are really more for companies with automatics that need to run samples, that need to do a fill-in. You're looking at an 8-color press. It could be as much as $20-some-odd thousand for that manual, which is far less
A lot
than
of
what an
money.
automatic cost. But at
Right,
the
right.
same time, and even real estate wise, they are big. So to me, I still think a 6-color 4-station, 6-color 3-station, 6-6. Although the thing about a 6-6 that I don't like, you have all of these stations. The question is why? And there is why I flash a lot. Do you think that a 4 or a 3-station is going to be hot when it comes around? It will not be. So, if you're going to cut a little bit of a corner, I would go down to a 3 or 4-station machine versus a 6. That's just me, though.
I'm sorry. Just so we're talking about putting in a flash unit, basically,
Yes. So
it,
I like the
the
reason I
concern
like.
is if there's too many stations, there won't be time for it to do its job to cure
Not only that,
the.
unless you have an automatic flash, that flash is going to sit over one of the stations no matter what, if you have a 6-6, which means anytime you stop, you've got to walk around and push the head out of the way. So if I had a 6-color 3-station, it's a 6-color 6-station press, but only 3 heads on it. And so I have a big open space to leave my flash and not have to run around getting it out of the way. So efficiency wise, I think it's a much better deal. Will
Interesting.
it work on a 6-4? Very similar, but you have to be a little more careful because your open space isn't as wide. Cost of those 2 presses are identical. So there is no savings in terms of if I go 6-4, 6-3, again, depending on the manufacturer. But I just like the fact that I don't have to worry about burning up a pallet.
Yeah.
Unless I do something stupid, in which case, welcome to the world.
welcome, welcome to starting out a new career in screen printing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, in all the years I've been doing workshops, I burned up 1 pallet, and I burned it up using an automatic flash. I had it in the wrong station. And I was like, really? I can't believe I did that.
You mentioned in passing just real estate, working space, but I'm thinking, once within reason, you're kind of, like a 6-station, for example, 6-color 6-station, which sounds like it's kind of the larger of the systems that you'd recommend in the manual.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, do you find, I feel like the real estate's the real estate, right? In terms of the work area, you need to have room for the shirts, the platens, and for the whole thing to carousel around, right?
Right. So the most efficient shops I think I've ever put in are all in 2-car garages. And the
Okay.
reason is they don't have the space to give up. And so you have to get very creative as in your layout. And I think that's one of the unfortunate things with someone new. They don't understand layout and they don't understand workflow, so that they're not going back and forth and crossing over each other on a continuous basis. You need to design your facility so that you don't crisscross. So in other words, if it comes in on one side, it works its way through and goes out to the other side without having to go back and forth very much. And so doing like an S curve or a U curve or something of that nature makes the most sense. And when you have a small space, you get very creative as to which area gets what particular pieces of equipment. Where do I set my press? Where do I set my dryer? Where do I set my flash? What about my washout and screen area? What if I have transfer machines? And quite honestly, I think those who start out small and tight make better decisions than those who have a lot of space. Because it's like, oh, I have all this space, I'm just going to
But
spread out. And then they become totally inefficient.
I'll tell you what, Charlie, I think maybe this might be a good topic for a future Ask the Experts. But unfortunately, we're kind of getting a little low on time at this end. So I wanted to get in one more thing real quick, just talking about presses. We've talked manual.
Yes.
Let's say you've made the leap. You're no longer a hobbyist. You're making money. Things are going well. How do you know when maybe it's time to make that jump into an auto? And what kind of auto makes, or how do you know what kind of auto makes sense? And I suppose also for an established shop, they have an auto. Do they go big? Do they get fancy? Do they go hybrid? Just some general rules for that, maybe.
Well, jumping from manual to hybrid would be an insane move, I think.
Okay.
I don't know any other way of phrasing it because they don't even know enough about how to print yet. And now they're going to go into a technology that is still quite new. To me, there are a couple of options in terms of going to an automatic, or a couple of scenarios. One, if you want to go and get bigger jobs, you have to own the automatic. No one is, you keep hearing people say, oh, when I get the big job, I'm going to buy the automatic. And it's kind of like, really, you want to test out your equipment on my job? I have to be insane to give it to you. Okay. So if you're going to do it and you want to go after the big ones, you got to put the bucks down first. All right. Other scenario.
Real quick, Charlie, how big of jobs are we talking about here?
Let's say you're going after 500 to 1,000 or 500 and up on a regular basis, 300. Printing manually, can I do 300 shirts? I can. Can I do 500? I can do 1,000. But here's the thing. If I'm doing that 1,000, I'm not getting as much money as I would for that 36 or 72 piece order. And so at that point, how much am I walking away from because I want the bigger job? Okay.
Understood.
And it's dollars and cents without a doubt. The other scenario that I'm running into, and on my road trip, I actually hit it with 2 companies. They've gotten up in age to the point where I'm not pushing a squeegee by hand anymore. I'm buying an automatic because I can work it alone. I don't have to be the fastest. Okay. Slow automatic, 25 dozen an hour versus manually printing at, 4 or 5 dozen an hour. Yeah, I'll take the 25 dozen an hour. I'll knock it down to 20 dozen an hour. It's just me loading, unloading, and I'm fine with that. Where the mistake, I think, comes in is the size that they buy. So a lot of them are buying 6-color 8-station automatics. Well, you automatically have a flash, other than 1 or 2 companies that have a flashback system, which is very slow, but nevertheless works. Okay. I can't put 2, 3-color jobs on. It's a bad investment because you're going to still do a lot of 1, 2, and 3-color work, and you're not always going to have the shirts available. You may screw something up or it just didn't ship or whatever. Now you have to break down an automatic and reset it up. How much money did you just lose? Because you are not going to make money on that job. So I advise my clients to go at least 8 colors, and 10 would be preferable for a first automatic. And the reason is, in today's world, we're using things called double squeegees and roller squeegees and a flash. That's 3 stations out of those 10 that are gone.
Right.
So by doing that, I still have room for 2, 3-color jobs. I'm good with that. Oh, on an 8-station, okay, I'll lose my roller squeegee, but I can now still do 2, 3-color jobs.
Right. It sounds like this is definitely one. I remember, early in this conversation, you were saying when you're first starting out, either go with a piece of junk that, you're going to just throw out, knowing ahead of time you're going to throw out, or go with something better. In this instance, figure out what you need. You don't want to cut corners. When you're making the jump to auto, you're talking about bucks, you're talking about big jobs, like you don't want something to go wrong in the middle of a big job because that'll kill your business. So this is, you think ahead, know what you're doing, look at your dollars, but then plunge.
I think you also have to look at the marketing side. When you can put it out there that you have a 10-color 12-station press, you sound big.
Sure.
Versus I have a 6-color 8-station. Yeah, I know you can handle some of the jobs, but you know what? We've got a job that requires more colors. So I can't give it to you now. And it's like, really, you can't give it to me? I can figure out how to do it. I don't want you to figure out how to do it on my job.
Right. Interesting.
So, and then of course you do have massive, when I go over to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, et cetera, they have these 36, 54 station machines for doing work that we don't do in the US for the most part, because they're doing a lot of flashing, a lot of things that make no sense to me, but hey, what do I know? As far as hybrids and stuff, I think they're wonderful. There's a major learning curve. I just came back from a shop called Same Day Tees with Pete Bolsani, and he's got several digital squeegees, and he has a Polaris. You know, Polaris is in at about 850,000. And so you're not talking about a little drop in the bucket, and he's still learning enough about it. I mean, it's a long crank up in the morning and breakdown in the evening. It's not like I can walk away and come back tomorrow. There's a whole regimen of what you have to do to break it down and to set it up again the following day. And so the digital squeegees, I think, are wonderful, but I think it's a mistake to jump right into it.
Right. Okay.
Learn how to use your automatic first. You can add the digital squeegee onto your automatic.
Okay.
But you know, and even there, I don't know.
Honestly, by the time you get to that level, Charlie, you've been in business for a while. You've got an idea of what's going on. So.
I mean, I would have been the idiot who ran out and bought a Polaris before I did anything else. But I was always known as being, you know, I wanted to be the first one on my block to have everything. This is not a time to be the first one on your block.
Right.
Not at that price point.
Sounds good. All right, Charlie, well, I'll tell you, we covered a lot of ground here in a few minutes here, but with some great. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, as we were actually talking about before we started recording, and I mentioned earlier, I think I would love nothing but it for us to check in on a semi-regular basis.
I'm happy to do it. So, while I have you on, just a couple of stupid things. Nothing that you'll care for, but
okay.
First ISS show recap, okay, including first ISS show program.
Good heavens, Charlie, you're dating yourself there.
And then of course I have my book.
I was just to say that, but yeah, and we'll be talking about that in the show notes as well. So, but yeah,
I'm almost done with my second one. My second one, you'll get a kick out of because there's nothing technical in it. Nothing.
War stories, right?
It does have a lot of those photos and stuff. In any event, thank you so much for.
Yeah, well, thank you, Charlie. And again, we'll be talking again soon, and take it easy.
I look forward to it.
See ya. All right. Well, that wraps up our conversation with veteran screen printer Charlie Taublieb, principal of Taublieb Consulting. For those interested in contacting Charlie directly, go to taubliebconsulting.com. That's TAUBLIEB consulting.com. For those interested in learning more about Impressions Magazine and the thrice annual Impressions Expo trade shows held in Fort Worth, Texas, Long Beach, California, and Atlantic City, New Jersey, go to impressionsmagazine.com. For now, though, thanks for joining us and keep on decorating.